like it's either you don't know what you're talking about, or get more educated. And I read a book about like somebody, or this guru said, or that guru said this or that, and the prices will not fall, and stop being jealous of people affording. I'm like, all right, everyone, welcome to the channel. Is the housing affordability about the price or about the government intervention? I'm right here in downtown Toronto, spoke to some people, got their opinion. They unfortunately didn't want it to be on camera. But listen, like what I feel, I think it's a little bit of both. And also there are people that do realize what they went through in the last few years. And I'll talk about that before the peak, during the peak, and after the peak, right? Like all these segments, right? Like people just are not sure anymore, right? And there are some people that said like, look, I do have the down payment maybe for a small condo and whatnot, but I don't feel that that's the right move for me to do. That's one. Second is they don't like the product, right? And having said that, developers and the builders over the years have built that particular product for investors. Like it was geared for investors only, it seemed like, right? So like, it's not that people might not have the savings. Some people do, but they just don't feel comfortable on top of that, right? Some said like, look, even the price, it's not realistic, right? So what do I mean by that? For, like a 500 square foot condo that's very tiny, right? Maybe a studio, maybe a small bedroom without a window, they're still asking for $150,000 to $500,000, right? Yes, it went down from the peak because those prices were at $600,000 to $700,000 depending on the tower. But I mean, like, people feel that they shouldn't be investing, right? On top of that, all that inventory is climbing and there's a lot of uncertainty. But let's get into the video together. So the core problem, affordability has collapsed for most Canadians. And that is absolutely true. Whether it has completely collapsed or whether they do not feel like investing, there's another segment to that collapse, right? Homeowners pre-2021 and 2022 are watching equity erode. That is 100% true. The people that have bought in that FOMO peak period have experienced and are continuously seeing that equity erode, being disappeared, right? And just the prices went down. Some areas went down by 30%, some areas went down by 10%. I also would like to add that some of these communities, estate communities, the communities that do not see that turnover as often, seemed like they saw less of price drop. But it's just the data collection, right? Because you cannot go into that community and pull out that particular data that shows bigger drops than they actually are in that community. Banks are nervous as arrears ticking up, especially in high debt households. Like it is true. Like, some have even commented on the channel. They said like, hey, what are you talking about? The mortgage arrears are not as high as you might say and all of that. But look, the point of the conversation is that it's going up. That's the challenge. It's been ticking up and it has been multiplying month over month. So the banks are getting nervous because they're holding onto that debt. Some are over leveraged, right? Like some of these guys are definitely over leveraged and the banks are seeing it, they're noticing it. And one is that tipping point or the threshold where that intervention is gonna interfere by the government. I personally don't know, but everybody's being itchy. Like that's I think the right term. The political layer. New Prime Minister in May of 2025 said clearly, home prices should not come down. Yes, we have seen that. Some of the people said look, why shouldn't they come down? Some said this, some said that, but it definitely painted a picture that everyone holding on to their properties will be secured. Obviously, that was not the case. As we know, the prices are still feathering down and there's still a lot of uncertainty. Government framing affordability as something to be managed, not through falling prices, but through intervention. I made videos on my channel regarding this, and I believe personally that it should be a free fall, right? Or it should not be intervened, right? And then that way we will see companies, we will see developers, we will see construction people, we will see new inventions, we will see more collaboration, and we will see more of that push by people trying to make it more affordable. And if they cannot, then that's the price. Do you understand what I mean? And then that person or developer that happens to make it happen, then they will see the benefit. Is as simple as that. So I don't understand why that. Obviously, like, look, like it's not like in Canada we only have, literally two things. We have housing and we have construction, right? So traffic. So that's it, right? Like, so we don't have much. So we have to hold on to what we have, and that's why there are so many interventions going on and on and on. I personally believe if your product is not good, you're not going to be able to sell it. If your product is too expensive, nobody will buy it, and that's it. Let it free fall. Free capitalism. Who benefits if prices stay inflated? Hint: banks, government, tax revenues, existing owners on paper. Yes, I mean, some people will benefit because, many homeowners were so comfortable and they believed so much that they went back to their, savings accounts and these HELOCs and line of credits, and they were just spending like a drunk captain on a ship, you know what I mean? Like sailor, like it was just nuts, right? Like all these new cars, luxury items, you name it. Like it was just going on and on and on because they saw that equity and they felt rich. So I believe that that's the terminology. They felt rich. They felt what it is to feel to have that money unlocked. But there are definitely consequences because even when they're speaking about the bailouts, yes, they're speaking about the bank bailouts. They're not speaking about you, right? Like as an individual, if you owe, you have to return the money. And believe me, there's no such thing as a slap on the wrist. They'll go after you, they'll go after your property, they'll go after you for a long time until they get it, and they will get it one way or another. So the bank arrear crisis, mortgage arrears starting to climb. Yes, we talked about it, even though it's slow increments, but the point is it keeps compounding every month. Banks overexposed heavily to Canadian real estate valuations. Yes, I mean, even they were the ones, they were giving these appraisals at face value, at like you know what I mean? Like they were just writing these appraisals and approving them blindly, seemed like, right? So now, like, that's the consequence. That's the back and tail that everybody has to deal with today. Quiet concern. If values fall another 10 to 20%, collateral doesn't cover loans. Well, look, I mean, like, will it happen? Probably it will happen because we're at that point which with the condo market, it's already too late because most values, if not all values, are down by 20%, which is the most down payment that folks would either come up with or put down on a property. Having said that, with all these books, with all these geared psychological systems, it like people, entrepreneurs, and courses, and people were taught to put as less as possible, right, as possible on a property and just write it out and buy another property and put as less as possible and use the bank's money and just keep on going. Keep reusing, rewashing that particular system until you blow up and you have tens or hundreds or thousands of these doors or units, right? Well, now when there is a shift after, a strong 2-decade Canadian real estate market, now that theory doesn't apply because you burn through your equity very quickly, the prices fell. So what are you going to do? You're stuck carrying all that weight, right? So if you're structured that these properties are under your name or whatever, that's definitely another video, and we need someone who is, definitely capable of speaking on that particular topic. If you are one of those, please comment below. But like people have different segments, registering these condos under corporations or whatnot, trust accounts and whatever, right? But that's just it, right? Like you still have to deal with consequences, right? So if it falls another 10%, I think majority of the freehold real estate market will be impacted in Toronto GTA. Affordability debate, price versus policy. Two paths, price correction, painful, but affordability returns. Yes, it will be painful. On top of that, it will trickle down. Not only trickle down, it will affect. And then the real market or the real affordability, the real consequence will show its face. At that point, nobody knows what will happen, but you know what, like it's gonna be that changing of hands, right? Like there are some people out there that have the funds, that have the money, they're not spending it today, but they're waiting for that moment. Today, they're looked at or upon to, and they're like, okay, these guys are out to lunch, like your money is being devalued, and yes, that is true, and you're not investing, and yes, that is true, but what if they're waiting for that time when they will buy or accumulate a lot of these properties and a lot of these businesses for pennies on the dollar, right? So we also have to take that approach into consideration as well. Government props up prices. Affordability never returns. Debt keeps climbing. So if government keeps intervening, yes, I understand the concept of it. But if they keep doing that, that's just like, kicking the can for another, decade or half a decade or another term. Just kick the can and let someone else figure it out. So it will eventually get to that someone else that will say, well, there's nothing I can do about it because we tried it and we keep pushing the bar, we keep pushing the bar, we keep pushing the bar. And that's it, right? Or we keep lowering the bar, right? Like, those dances when you go under the bar, like usually danced in the Caribbean countries and stuff like that. So you get to the lowest point where you cannot pass through. So at that point, like they will have to adjust between these mortgage rates, affordability, the pricing and all of that stuff. So they need to find that median. On top of that, real estate should be considered as a household, roof over your head, like a shelter for your family. Yeah, maybe an investment here and there. But some people are definitely seeing this as the golden goose, that golden egg that they can reuse, rewash, reborrow, just, keep it going until you can't anymore, right? So I think they have to definitely sit down and rewrite all of it together. So closing thoughts, affordability is now less about a home cost and more about the government will allow. So it is true. If they keep intervening, like they can turn it left or right depending or who they want to cater to. It shouldn't be like that. Again, I believe it should be a free fall. If you can afford it, go for it. If you can't, simple as that. So I have a couple of questions. If the Prime Minister says home prices shouldn't come down, is affordability even a real goal or just political spin? I think it's just, a political spin. It's something that he wanted to say or had to say just to make everyone feel comfortable and have a great weekend on that weekend, and then the Monday hits and you again have the same problem. Is it more dangerous for banks if prices fall or households if they never do? I think the banks will have to deal with it. Is it dangerous? Yes, but look, they will be bailed out no matter what. Like especially these big, 3 or 5 banks, they will be bailed out. But the guys that are carrying on these costs, I mean, they will just fall. It's very, very, very simple. Should governments have the power to set affordability through policy, or should markets decide? As mentioned, I personally believe markets should decide, and that way you're letting the developers and the brains, the geniuses of these industries just come up with better solutions, better pricing, better materials, better inventions in order for everyone else either to go on that train of thought or not, right? So let everyone else decide. If arrears keep climbing, who breaks first? Homeowners, banks, or the government? I think homeowners, 100%. The banks will break, but the banks will be bailed out from the government. And I don't think that the governments can fail. Like not in Canada. I like maybe some other countries across the world that are less fortunate and whatnot. But I don't think Canada will be in the position where it's that weak and that cannot carry its own weight. But for the people, who knows? I really don't know how to answer the question. Do you think equity melting is a healthier reset or a betrayal of those who bought at the peak? I think, look, it's a hard question to answer. I think, look, like the peak was the peak. Many have been blowing the whistle, making these videos, trying to point at data, trying to point at what's going on. But people are just people, like people believe that a party will never end, right? And getting sober after a party can be painful, right? Like you can get sick, right? So, there's also, I would say, folks that are maybe ill or sick, but they don't believe that they're sick or mentally ill, and they just keep continuing with the process, right? Or if a doctor give you a diagnosis and say like, look, this is very severe and we have the data and we have everything, so you have to take certain steps in order to cure yourself. And some people say, no, you're wrong, or I don't care, or I'm going to do it my way, and that's a false prediction, and nothing can happen to me because last week I was perfectly okay, right? And they might pass away within a few months, right? So I think it's the same process. People like even at the peak, I've heard people personally say things to me in a way that they say, look, like the government will not allow it, or the prices cannot fall. Like these are the statements that I was like, I was completely like curious, and it was mind-boggling because I'm like, why not? I mean, like, why not, right? Like, who is going to be out there to save you? Like, that was the question, right? Made several videos on that. I never really got an answer. Like, the only answers that I got was like, like it's either you don't know what you're talking about, or get more educated. And I read a book about like somebody, or this guru said, or that guru said this or that, and the prices will not fall, and stop being jealous of people affording. I'm like, I'm not being jealous. Like the people that were buying at the peak were, to be honest with you, were out to lunch. On top of that, they were more arrogant about it, if anything, right? Because they're, like I have heard that too. Like when people said like, look, I'm gonna buy as much as I can and everybody's gonna rent from me and I'm gonna be a millionaire and I don't care. And then I asked them, I'm like, what about other kids? What about the next generation? Well, who cares? As long as my kids are okay, I'm okay, right? So it's just like, I think it became a jungle at one point, and now like everybody is out of the jungle and now everybody is looking at their consequences. And you know what, like I believe like if you made the right choices and if you played your cards right, good for you. If you played your cards maybe right at that time, but now you have to deal with it, well, now deal with it, right? So find a way to deal with it. So as simple as that. Like I obviously wish everyone all the best and well, and I hope that there are not too many painful situations, but just by maybe my personal calculations, I believe that there's going to be way, way, way more pain coming down the pipeline. So please comment down below what you think. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.